Hi, my name's Danielle Topalovic and I'll be your host for the DIPL information session. I was lucky enough to teach the program for 5 years before coming to work for the company, so I know all about the merits of DIPL in the classroom. DIPL stands for Doorway into Practical Literacy. It's an Australian program written by a speech pathologist with input from primary school teachers. Don't forget, if you'd like to know more, our website is www.dipl.com.au. You can also email me directly, danielle@dipl.com.au. Otherwise, let's begin our information session. Let's talk about DIPL. DIPL is an explicit program and it is prescriptive in the sense that students complete activities each day to help cement their learning on very important skills and knowledge. It is sequential. It scaffolds their learning not only throughout 1 year but across the years of schooling so that students don't come to grade 6 with gaps in their knowledge or areas that have been missed. It is an important integrated language approach, which means that we integrate spelling, punctuation and grammar together. We don't want students to think about spelling as in just words or spelling lists. We want students to think about spelling in relation to sentences because that's where they're going to use them. And that requires that integrated approach. It is supported with fantastic examples and resources, including our online program, but there are also lots of great hands-on games and activities. We also think that the DIPL program is lots of fun. On the left-hand side is an example of one of the rule cards from our Green DIPL program. Each level of the program has display cards that the teacher can use to support the learning in the classroom and support students with visual aids. DIPL commences with the Lime program, which is our prep, kinder or reception program. The green program, blue program, then yellow is a 3-4 program and red is a 5-6 program. There is documentation linking DIPL to the Australian curriculum that can be downloaded on our website for your interest. But what does DIPL involve? DIPL involves the development of spelling, but not just through phonics. Phonics is an important part, but we also acknowledge that students need morphology, which is base word and ending, and etymology, which is the roots and origins of words, in order to be successful spellers, particularly as they get older. Students in the grade 4, 5 and 6 area cannot just rely on phonics for their spelling. They need to be able to integrate all of these things as well as some basic spelling rules in order to be able to spell appropriately. That's where also we have our grammar and punctuation development, which allows it to be an integrated approach with spelling. We get children to fine-tune their auditory skills, which supports their phonemic awareness development, and another important part of the program. And then there is reading strategy as well. Our Lime program is our prep program. It comes with an online component as well as puppets and beanbags and blocks, which are concrete resources for the younger children. It starts looking at consonant-vowel consonant words. These are important because they contain short vowel sounds. The best indicators of success in reading and spelling for early years students is their understanding of short vowel sounds, so we want them to master these quickly and accurately. We also look at sound-letter relationship and consonant digraphs. All of these important knowledge bases are taught through different activities each day. Some examples of things that happen in the Lime program are the integration of how we say, read and write sounds. Students learn to use kinesthetic feedback from their own mouths, throats, tongues and noses to ensure that they're making sounds correctly. But it also relates to the writing of sounds. For example, mm. When we make this sound, our lips are in a straight line. When we write this sound, the first line we make is a straight line. This also works for B and D. B is made with a straight line and D is made with round lips, which also reflects the first line or circle in the letter. An important part of the DIPL program, which is integrated from the speech pathology knowledge, is the use of the voiced and voiceless pairs. Students call them quiet and noisy sounds. These are pairs of letters where the mouth makes the same formation, but one is the voiced version and one is the voiceless version. For example, P and B. These sounds are made the same way with the mouth, however, P is the quiet version and B is the noisy version. Students learn these pairs and how to utilize this knowledge when they are working out what letter to use. A unique part of the program is how we approach our teaching of the short vowels. We begin with the letter I. I, E, O, A, A. Just as the ladder goes wider from I down to A, so does our mouth. We start with a skinny space for I, and we drop our jaw right down to our chest for the sound A. Students can use the kinesthetic feedback from their own mouth to ensure that there is no vowel confusion when they are making these sounds, and it helps them to discriminate which sound they are making. Our green program is our grade 1 program. It also has an online component. This is where we start to introduce some really interesting and important spelling rules, as well as focusing on our short vowel sounds and introducing the beginning of long vowel sounds. We're asking students to be able to discriminate between A and A, for example, as short and long vowels. There's a host of activities each week where they practice these important skills and apply their new spelling rules. Sound processing is an extremely important part of the green program. These are phonemic awareness skills. We don't want students memorizing letters. We want them to be able to hear, identify and manipulate sounds, and DIPL uses lots of visual and concrete approaches to help students to be able to do this. A simple but effective rule that they learn early on in the DIPL program is when to use C or K for the sound K. Why does cat have a C and kite has a K, even though they both sound like K? Well, the rule states use the letter K for the sound K when the next letter is EI or Y, which makes sense why we use K for kite. Students get very excited by this rule and it opens up hundreds of spelling choices. As they become more confident, we do explain that there are a few exceptions, but initially it opens up hundreds of spelling words and they love applying the rule. We also look in the green program at morphology, which is our base word and ending. It's so important as a strategy for spelling and reading. We start by looking at base word and the S sound on the end. This is where our discussion commences about plurals. We also look at the ing, ed, and y making the E sound on the end of words. These are some of the common endings in the grade 1 program. Then we move to our grade 2 blue program, which also has an online component. We make sure that students have nailed their short vowel sounds because by the blue program we want to discuss all of the long vowel sounds and the combinations that they can use. We give students a table that they can refer to when they are working with long vowels, but we spend time teaching them how to use this table effectively. We also look at some tricky sounds and continue our work with base word and ending. Again, there are lots of activities during the week to help cement this learning as well as our spelling rules. Again, we're looking at our base word and ending, and we need to understand how this correlates to grammar. One of the things we explain to students is that present tense means happening now. Present tense words often end with an ing ending, for example, playing. And past tense means finished happening. And past tense words often end with an ed ending, as in played. Then we look carefully at the ed ending because it's a bit tricky. The ed ending can make the sound ed, as in lifted, but it can also make the sound t, as in walked. And it can also make the sound d, as in grabbed. We acknowledge with students the importance of understanding past tense verbs and when we need to apply the ed ending, even if it sounds like t or d. Then there's our yellow program, which is our 3-4 program. This is a 2-year program. Obviously, the spelling, punctuation and grammar is much more complex in line with students' increased reading and language skills. At DIPL, our aim is to make sure that students' writing skills improve in line with their advanced reading and writing. We need to have a good focus on prefixes and suffixes. Things such as contractions, plural rules and silent letters also feature in this level of the program. There's so much more that we can't cover it all. Here's how our base word and ending grows by the yellow program. We don't want students to just say chop off the E and add ing because the rule for the E ending and the vowel is so much more complex than that. What we want them to understand is when a word ends with the letter E, chop off the E and add the ending only if the ending starts with a vowel sound. So in the example hope-ing, we do chop off the E because the ing ending starts with a vowel. In the example hopeful, we don't chop off the E because the ending starts with a consonant. This ensures that students aren't unnecessarily chopping off letters that they don't need to. They can refer to the rule instead. Our red program is our 5-6 program. This again is a 2-year program and it has a writing component in the workbooks. The information in the red program is too comprehensive to list it all, but some things that are focused on are things like further prefixes and suffixes, words with 3 or more syllables, irregular plurals, various rules for tricky sounds, and troublesome suffixes. It also has a red online program which will be available in 2016. We continue to look about how grammar and spelling is integrated. We look at things like how EY is usually a noun and Y making the E sound is mostly on the end of describing words. The same as Y being on the end of adjectives and LY being on the end of adverbs. We also look at the shun suffix, which is troublesome for some. Shun can be spelt in 4 different ways: T-I-O-N, S-I-O-N, double S-I-O-N, or C-I-A-N. And we want students to know when to use each ending. Some of the rules are quite simple, some of them are more complex, and we work through with students parts of the rule so that they know when to apply which ending. Then there's our online resource. As I said, by 2016 we will have a level coloured for each online program. So basically our online program is web-based and works for interactive whiteboards, computers, laptops or iDevices. Students or teachers can log on and use this fantastic resource. and it is designed to support teachers in delivering the program, to engage students, to make sure that vital aspects of the program are delivered correctly, and also to be true to the essence of the DIPL program, which is to promote student participation 100%. It's a fantastic resource, which is really exciting. We also have DIPL workbooks, which are compulsory to the effective implementation of the program. As you can understand, there's no point having a spelling, punctuation and grammar program if the students are unable to record their learning in written form. The DIPL workbook activities are explicit and relate directly to the learning, so students can learn and then go back and apply their learning and get feedback from their own writing. It's an important process. There is also assessment in the form of a DIPL assessment book, and we have a spelling test at the end of each week and a dictation test. The spelling test is not designed for students to memorize lists of words. It's asking them to apply the rules and sounds they have learnt. The dictation sentences are allowing students to think in sentences rather than just in words, which again makes them consider punctuation, grammar and spelling as a complete integrated system. If you'd like to know more about the DIPL program, you can hop onto our website and get free samples of a 1-week lesson plan for each colour level. You can also see workbook samples, homework samples, and have a look at our fantastic online resource. There's at least 2 weeks of each level of the program that you can see a demonstration of. If you'd like a free information webinar for your school, don't hesitate to contact us. Otherwise, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the presentation.